When Laine and Romulus went back into the field that evening, Laine's negative thoughts started to overrule her. "Mom killed Dad," the voice in her head said. She knew that was a dark thought, and the dark thoughts weren't real. "She killed him with her controlling nature," it said. That was stupid. How could anyone be nagged to death anyway? It was not rational, not reality, and sometimes the dark thoughts came and would not stop. Yet she was more mindful and grateful than she'd been in the past. Besides, all of those things were in the past. She learned to pray to God, the universe. It didn't really matter, as long as she believed there was a greater design beyond what she could currently see. She began to transform her life subtly that way. She moved out of a time of grief, scarcity, and survival into a time of abundance, luck, and success. "Your heart is the light of this world," she told her mind. "Get as depressed as you want. I'm only going to observe you." Besides, she had to leave it behind her for what was ahead. Because now, she couldn't let herself miss a second of this glorious shifting in her story, this turning point from darkness to light. "Come on," Romulus said, "let's finish what we started." And they moved into the sunset, into the crashing wave off the horizon. When she actually got into her body, she realized she was in an amazing life, actually living the life of her dreams. There was evidence of them sprouting all around her. She had created this green pasture, this calm meadow, with her good karma, maybe from working as a youth counselor and trying to help even when still figuring things out herself. And though she still had work to do, she felt like she was able to relax and enjoy a little. The colors on the ridge in summer, and the wildflowers were bursting along the rock face, going down into the crater lake. It was built around the volcano and not man-made like Lake Como, Montana. On the paper she read from academy.com, it said the ancient people of this region of Lake Albano seemed to sense the volcanic activity, and even though most couldn't read or write, recounted the Mar formations into stories of birds and escaping gas as demons or eruptions. She felt the sky turning red and ground surface twisting and cracking underneath her with the new life it was about to bring forth. Everything was changing. Everything that had made her strange before was now part of her brilliance. Squirrels and weasels played in the bracken, and down below were deer. She'd always told herself she liked the rain best when the colors of the land, sea, and sky blurred, but here everything was so proudly its own. Like the blue sky beat its chest with pride, and so did the sun and the water and the grass, each one apart but part of a whole, as if they were exploding the utmost of their beauty. Not because they were trying to, but simply couldn't help it. They were bursting at the seams, brimming with life, and living to the fullest expression of what it meant to be water, sky, air, soil. The hawk's wings seemed to anchor it all in, the sky below the clouds. The secrecy of her underlying growth. While she kept an eye on Romulus, she also ran alongside the other sheep. He finished his chores late into the evening. She felt like she'd been reborn. The other sheep in the flock looked at her with heavy eyelids but friendly eyes, and she felt glad to be part of them, happy and free, she kept saying to herself. She had never felt so true and authentic. Mom had once said happiness was her natural state, and Laine felt that way too. There was always somewhere new to explore. She was a kid again, cute, mischievous, and too giddy to nap, even when she was tired. How many sheep did she have to count to fall asleep? She laughed and shook out her hindquarters, which was covered in a frizzy black fur. She hopped and glided down the field before collapsing onto her haunches and rolling her back in the grass, all the while humming a song from her girlhood. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and skies are not cloudy all day. Often she noticed the other sheep following her. She felt no doubt that she was one of them. There were sheep with black faces and white bodies, or white faces and black bodies, but Romulus was right. She seemed to be the only one who was black all over, the black sheep. Even though she was different, she still belonged. She had a place to be, a group to belong to, a placement. She wasn't the odd one out. She was not all alone. She was unique all on her own, but still belonged there. She sometimes used these affirmations when coping with strong emotions. Only now it was to cope with the surprising and unbridled joy. Among the sheep there seemed to be no petty jealousies, competitions, and ploys for power so typical in grown adult humans. Even the older sheep seemed to contain a sense of ease and commonality with his fellow sheep, as well as joy and excitement to be alive. They were all free and innocent. The only things that they had to watch out for were predators, and those weren't always easy to spot or in the form one would expect. The rest of the evening, Laine and the other sheep played like happy children in the backwoods, waiting to be called in for dinner. And she continued her duty of following Romulus wherever he went, keeping him always in her sight. As darkness approached, she kept by him, tucking herself in and resting by the back hatch of the roundhouse, where the twins slept on their separate mats. Lupina shooed her away. "We can't have animals thinking they're human," she said, and Romulus started to argue, but she was yelling. Laine thought, "What do you care where I sleep?" She knew she left in the night, tearing into the forest to be one with her wolf nature, her heels rolling like stones in the moonlight. "What do you care?" Laine thought. "I know you're going to be out all night in your wolf form anyway." Her sheep noises didn't cause any change, and so she resigned herself. Laine warmed herself in the flock. As usual, the cows dozed in the barn, the rooster on his post. The sheep stood in their rally flock of slumber. The next morning, Laine woke up before the sun had risen, and when the moon looked like a walnut shell in the sky. As she ambled up the crest of the hill back to the hut, she hoped she hadn't neglected her duty as Romulus's protector. She noticed his candle was still flickering as she trotted in through the back hatch. Romulus had fallen asleep with his arm outstretched over the cot, and his parchment resting on the floor. After what he'd read to his family, Laine wondered when he would again have the courage to share his work. It would take Laine a lot longer to try again, but Romulus was Laine's higher self. She knew she wasn't supposed to enter, but couldn't resist to see what he'd written. She had been reading his scroll for about 5 minutes when Romulus woke up and was throwing on his clothes. "Holy crap," he said, "today's the day, and I'm late." Laine was glad she stayed by his back hatch in case he needed her, and that morning he seemed to. He whistled to her, but it wasn't the shepherd's whistle that he used to direct the collie, who directed the sheep. It was like a wolf whistle, and she imagined herself making the kissing face in the mirror at herself. It wasn't like she felt obliged to follow, not as she felt within the dynamics of her family. She wanted to go with him. He was inspiring to her. With him, she felt like she could stretch beyond the limits of what she thought possible for herself. And even if her past had difficulties, her future was full of unexpected good things. She had the power to go in a new direction and make her dreams happen, and no one could stop her. And that, in fact, these things were destined for her. Impossible heart cravings were possible, just as the prophecy about the twin who founded Rome. Thanks for watching my video, guys. I'll be back with another video next Wednesday. Until then, ciao!